Hello, I'm an old fart, and I have a guilty pleasure. I like knives. I'm not an expert or an official representative of anything. I just like knives. And I'm giving a little tour through some of the knives in my collection in this series of videos. Today we're going to look at this one. This is a zero tolerance 0770 CF, the carbon fiber version. Little background on how I came to have this knife. I had read some reviews of it and seen it listed with good ratings, and it was implied that it was kind of one of the reference standards in a particular size and class, and I try to have those reference standards to have a well-rounded collection. So I didn't really want one a lot, but had made a mental note to watch for it and pick one up if I ever got a chance to do one at a good price. And eventually one did come up on the used market, this one. The carbon fiber version. I like carbon fiber, so that caught my attention. And it was at a very good price because it wasn't in very good condition. So it was listed as is, needed some work, and I was able to pick it up for a real bargain. What it needed was just some basic maintenance. It needed disassembly. Took it apart, cleaned it. The interior was pretty bad. It looked like maybe it had been wet and left wet. It had sort of some mold and grunge inside it. Lubricated it, put it back together, sharpened it. It was very dull. I think it had been used to, stir paint or something. And also the paint on the clip was worn quite badly, and I just replaced that with a clip that I happen to have that fits it nicely. So a little bit of work refurbishing it, and I ended up with this knife at a really good price. So probably not one I would have gone out of my way to buy new. It's not quite my thing, as we'll discuss. So formally, it's a zero tolerance, a ZT 0770 CF. CF is for the carbon fiber version. Mechanism, it is a side flipper, and it's an assisted opening side flipper. So when you start to the release, there's a lot of pressure, and then about there, a spring grabs the blade and flicks it open the rest of the way. So without my hand in the way, it's a fast and loud opening, and it locks securely because it's flung, is that a word? Flung open by this assist spring. Locking mechanism, it's a liner lock and quite good lock coverage. It locks up very securely. There's no play, so it works well. More comments on the assisted mechanism in a moment. The size is a little odd on this knife. I'm learning that there aren't really standard size ranges on knives, so this one's in a kind of a special category. So the most important measure is it is about 1.1 pocket calculators, which is an odd size in my collection. I'll show you what I mean. So it's larger than mid-sized. I consider the mini grip to be kind of the reference standard for mid-size. And so you can see it's quite a bit larger than mid-sized. So it's full-size then, is it? Well, I would consider a Sebenza large to be a full-size, and it's smaller than that. So it's somewhere between mid-sized and full-sized. And it turns out actually that here's another zero tolerance. This is the 0450. And it's pretty much the same size as the 0450. So zero tolerance defines some kind of a size range that is between mid-sized and full-sized, and it's one of those. The blade length is over 3 inches. It's 3¼ inches, so it is too large for places where that 3-inch boundary is important. So it's a reasonably large knife, just slightly smaller than my other full-sized knives. The weight is 85 grams, so again, it's a little heavier than the Mini Griptilian, but not much heavier considering how much larger it is. That's the carbon fiber that gives you a very good weight ratio, and it feels light in the hand because it's light for such a large knife. The blade shape is one of the things I'm not sure I like, so we'll describe it a little. It's called a drop point. Zero tolerance calls it a drop point, but it's certainly not a classic drop point because it has a slight recurve instead of a smoothly convex. Yes, convex belly. As you can see, the curve reverses here. So there's a little bit of a concave inset there. So a recurve blade, that's called. Nice steel. It's this essay of a variety of things written on the back here. One of them is the steel. It's S35 VN steel, which is a good steel that I like. This particular knife was an opportunity to verify that S35 VN sharpens well, because this was dull. I think like it had been heavily used and then sharpened badly. So it was dull as hell, and it sharpened up quite nicely to a good, as you can see, can I get that to reflect there? It's a good mirror finish. There we are. So it sharpened very well, and I would expect it to hold that edge quite nicely. Liners, it does have steel liners. They're not full liners. Can you see in there? They're about 3/4. There we go, about 3/4 liners, and the carbon fiber scales on top of that. So overall, it's sturdy, stiff, nice looking knife. I like that. I think I mentioned the clip that it came with. It was a shallow carry clip, painted black and badly chipped and looked ugly. I happen to have this third-party deep carry black clip in a drawer, and I tried it and was quite pleased to find out that it fits, so I was able to get that clip on. And the clip, as you can see, there are mounting holes on this side, so you could put the clip on the other side for left-hand carry as well. I prefer deep carry clips, so I'm really glad that this clip that I happen to have fits it nicely. So talking about the clip, is the knife ambidextrous? And I'd say, a little bit. And the clip is reversible, that's good. Flipper is, of course, ambidextrous. You can do that with either hand. I won't embarrass myself by trying to do it with my left hand, but you could. But of course, closing is not ambidextrous because the liner lock has to be pushed that way to close it. So, I don't know, maybe a lefty is used to that and can do it. I can't. I can't pull the locking mechanism with my thumb and initiate a closing operation. It just doesn't work for me. So it's partially ambidextrous. And the final thing that I know some people care about, it is US made in Oregon, I believe. It's one of the many things written on the back of the blade there. So if that's important to you, US made. So I like some things about this knife. I do like the materials. I like carbon fiber. And of the carbon fibers that are out there, I like this style. I don't know what its name is, but it's flat and smooth, and it has that classic woven pattern in it. And I like that style of carbon fiber. I like it a lot. And I like this steel. I like S35 VN steel. It wears well. It's easy to care for. Holds an edge nicely. So I like the materials a lot. Next, I like holding it. It's a comfortable knife to hold. The shaping on both sides of the body fits the closed hand quite nicely, so it holds well, very comfortable. Jimping on the back of the blade. Easy knife to hold and work with. And the size is good. It's thin, it's light, good amount of cutting edge, so it's a size that I like. Final thing I'll mention that I like a lot on liner lock blades is it's got quite a large flipper tab, so when you initiate the closing operation, the flipper tab encounters your thumb, which means you can't close the blade on your hand because your hand is in harm's way here. So it acts as a safety, giving you time to get out of the way before you do the rest of the close operation. Now I'll come back to this, but that's a little less useful a feature on this knife because with the assisted opening, there's a spring there. I can't close it one-handed anyway. I don't have this. Okay, I do, but it's hard work closing it with one hand. I close it with two hands because the spring tension there just requires that kind of attention. So, but anyway, in theory, the flipper tab acts as a safety when closing, and I like that a lot. So things I don't like. I've already kind of implied the first thing. The mechanism is assisted opening, and I gotta say, I just don't really get assisted opening. Like what? Assisting who? Who needs help getting their flipper knife to open? I mean, here's a flipper that isn't assisted opening. Oh, that was hard. I need help. So I don't get what problem assisted opening is trying to solve. But the cost of assisted opening is substantial. It complicates maintenance. When I took the knife apart, there's a spring in there that you have to be careful with. It has to be cleaned and lubricated and reassembled in the right place, and it makes it harder to close. I have trouble closing this knife one-handed because I'm pushing against, there we are, I'm pushing against the assist spring at that point. So I tend to close it two-handed. And finally, because of the assisted opening, the opening is loud. It's quite a noticeable smack, and it scares people. Since my preference is for what I call non-threatening knives, I find that to be too loud. So that's the first thing I don't particularly like. The next thing I don't particularly like, this is trivial, but what the hell, is just I like subtle and understated knives. And this isn't subtle and understated, and that it is non-subtle in two ways. First of all, there's a hell of a lot of writing on the blade, and I like sort of a more understated approach than that. There's the ZT logo on this side, but look at this side. There's an essay over here. So I've got the logo, I've got the model number, I've got the steel, I've got a statement that it's patent pending, I've got that it's made in the USA, and I've got a serial number. And I don't really need any of that. Let's just compare it to the Griptilian. I've got the logo and the designer. Or on the Sebenza, I've got, nothing on the blade. I guess that's why nobody likes Sebenzas. So I just find that blade to be a little bit loud and unsubtle. The final thing I don't especially like, I don't like the shape of the blade. I don't like the recurve. And there's a couple of reasons I don't like recurve. First of all, it's harder to sharpen. Now this is a very minor recurve, so it really doesn't have this effect. But a deep recurve becomes hard to sharpen because a flat sharpening stone is wearing the edges and not the center of the recurve. So in theory, a recurve blade is harder to sharpen. Not really a big issue on this gentle recurve. More important, it just looks aggressive. It makes it, in my opinion, it makes it look more weapony. And since I'm trying to carry knives that are non-threatening, I find this to be just a little bit too tactical. When it's closed, it's still has that sort of tactical brooding look. Because it's wide across here and the blade sticks out quite a bit, it just seems to communicate, there's a weapon in here, watch out, and I don't care for that. So I find it to be a little bit too tactical and aggressive looking. It's a good knife, it cuts well. So let's run through my entirely unknown knife ratings. My NTGK rating, non-threatening gentleman's knife. Now, I'll say right up front, this is not trying to be a non-threatening gentleman's knife. It's not trying to be non-threatening, and it's not trying to be a gentleman's knife, so it's not going to score well, but what the hell. So, NTGK. So for the non-threatening part, I'm going to give it only a C. And I'm going to say that. So here's the good. The good is you can open it two-handed, which reduces the threateningness to nervous people. It's awkward to open it two-handed, but you can. So you can catch the blade and open it two-handed. And I would do that in front of nervous people. You can't open it slowly one-handed because of the assist. It opens fast and loud, and that scares people. Plus, it has this tactical appearance. Lots of curves and jagginess and the wavy blade that looks like it's designed to injure. So I don't find that it does well on the non-threatening scale. On the gentleman's knife rating, the GK, the good is not really anything. It's not designed to be a gentleman's knife. On the bad, it's a little bit large to be a gentleman's knife. It's a little bit too tactical looking to be a gentleman's knife. And it's not subtle. And I think a gentleman's knife should be subtle, and that is not subtle. So overall, as an NTGK, I'll give it a C. And again, that's not intended as criticism because it isn't trying to be a non-threatening gentleman's knife. It's not claiming to be, and indeed it isn't. Next rating is my KN rating. This is what would my knife nerd colleagues think. They'd think it's okay. It's good steel. They'd like that. It opens fast. They'd like that. The carbon fiber is cool. They'd like that. I'm not sure about the assisted opening. You don't see much new coming out in assisted opening these days. And is it passe? Was it a fad? And would my knife nerds say, "Oh, an assisted opening knife"? So I don't know that they'd get a huge kick out of that, but it's okay. My knife nerd friends would think, yeah, this is a fine knife, no issues, no reason to be embarrassed having it. I'll give it a B. Finally, CMR cut myself rating. It gets an A on that. I have never cut myself. Biggest reason being, I think, that safety of the tab stopping me from hurting myself as I close it. And the fact that I do pretty much have to handle it two-handed means there really is limited opportunity to cut myself on it. So it's worked well. So summary on this knife. I don't really know what to think about it. I can't decide if I like it. I still have it, so I guess I do. It's funny, I see some other knife reviews saying that what they really like is the good look of it, that they like the curves and the lines of the blade and of the body and so on. And it's funny because those are the things that I don't like about it. And I guess if that's proof that tastes vary, if nothing else. Anyway, I do still have it, so I guess I must like it to some extent. And what it is, for me, is a weekend or a working knife. It's too threatening looking for professional day work. I don't take this to the office. Probably never will. But it's a good knife as a worker to have in my pocket on a weekend, when I may need a knife, and especially when I may need a knife in a situation where it's going to get a little bit of abuse. I don't want to put one of my expensive high-end working knives in my pocket. It's just a good general purpose utility blade for weekends. I'm keeping it around for that. It gets carried on weekends fairly often. Not a favorite, but I do carry it. I do use it. I'm not sorry I have it. Certainly not a non-threatening gentleman's knife for the office worker, but it has a place in the toolbox. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again. Bye-bye.